Hello everyone, this is the Into the Crime Depths channel. Today we delve into a story where the high-altitude glamour of the jet set meets the dark, suffocating reality of a psychological breakdown. When Ronald Vinci, a self-made multimillionaire, first laid eyes on Catherine P.Y., a beautiful and charismatic flight attendant, he felt a lightning bolt of attraction that he described as falling in love at first sight. At that moment, suspended in the clouds, he could never have imagined how their serendipitous meeting in the skies would ultimately conclude in a nightmare of blood and betrayal. To understand the tragedy, we must first look at the man who built the empire. Ronald Vinci was born on August 16, 1940 in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. From a very young age, he displayed a relentless entrepreneurial spirit that would eventually make him one of the wealthiest men in his field. In his 20s, driven by a hunger for success, he embarked on his first serious business venture by renting a small space on the Pacific coast in San Diego. It was there that he began selling Honda motorcycles. Over time, through sheer grit and a demanding work ethic, his small shop evolved into one of the largest Honda dealership centers in all of California. Those who worked for Vinci often described him as a resolute, strong-willed individual. He was a man who knew what he wanted and expected perfection from everyone around him, making him a notoriously demanding employer. His personal life had seen its share of ups and downs. He had a previous marriage to a woman named Pamela, and together they had a son named Carrie. However, as is common with men who prioritize their empires, the marriage eventually ended in divorce. Following the split, Ron began to indulge in an incredibly lavish lifestyle, spending his wealth on the most extravagant toys imaginable. He developed a deep passion for aviation, collecting high-end airplanes and helicopters. He even acquired a massive hangar to house his growing fleet. Residing in a spacious elite estate in Rancho Santa Fe, California, Ron went to great lengths to obtain permission from the county commission to construct a private helicopter pad on his property. Despite fierce objections from his neighbors regarding the noise and intrusion, Ron won. This allowed him to conveniently commute to work by helicopter directly from his home, landing on the roofs of his car dealerships like a man who truly owned the sky. Then, in 1990, the paths of the 50-year-old millionaire and a 34-year-old flight attendant named Catherine P.Y. crossed in the most unexpected of places. The sky. Catherine came from a very different world. Raised in a tight-knit family in rural Georgia, she had spent her youth as a local star, winning beauty pageants with her radiant smile and natural charisma. Her beauty and pleasant demeanor attracted many admirers, but Catherine always yearned for something more than the small-town life she knew. After working for a few years as a lab technician in a veterans hospital, she made a significant career change in 1980 by joining Delta Airlines. When she met Ronald Vinci on that fateful flight, her life changed overnight. Despite the 14-year age gap, the two embarked on a whirlwind romance. Catherine walked away from her career and moved into Ron's luxurious California world. Together, they traveled to the most exclusive destinations, with Aspen, Colorado becoming a favorite getaway. However, as the years turned into a decade, a hidden tension began to grow. Despite their shared life and his immense wealth, Ronald never proposed. Catherine was a partner in every sense, yet she had no legal security. By the turn of the millennium, the relationship fractured, and they went their separate ways. Catherine moved to Florida, desperate for a fresh start and a man who would finally give her the commitment she craved. In April 2001, she met Dilio Carano, a wealthy insurance agent. Just 1 month after meeting, they were married. During this brief marriage, Catherine painted a dark picture of her years with Ronald Vinci. She told Dilio that Ron was a monster, a man who insulted her, drank heavily, and flaunted his affairs with other women. She claimed she had stayed for 10 years only in the hope of a marriage proposal that never came. Dilio initially saw her as a gentle, quiet woman, almost like a domestic cat. He also noticed her profound and strange fear of water. She could not bring herself to enter the ocean or even a river without experiencing intense, paralyzing anxiety. But the marriage to Dilio soon soured. Catherine began demanding $5,000 a month for supposed educational expenses, yet she never provided any proof of her studies. Dilio realized he had rushed into the union and filed for divorce. Court documents showed a staggering disparity. Dilio had a net worth of $4.5 million, while Catherine had only $8,000 left in her accounts. As she prepared to move out, she fell into a deep despair. questioning the very point of her existence and claiming that nothing in her life had any meaning. In 2005, Ronald Vinci moved his base of operations to Fort Lauderdale, attracted by the climate and the taxes. He had sold his dealerships and was now living a life of total leisure in a 41st floor penthouse. In a shocking turn of events, he and Catherine rekindled their toxic connection. She moved into the penthouse, even though her ex-husband Dilio lived in the very same building 30 floors below. The reunion was far from a second honeymoon. Ron was now 70, overweight, and spent his days drinking in budget bars and insulting Catherine in front of their friends. Catherine, meanwhile, had changed. She was dangerously thin, weighing only 42 kilograms, and spent her hours engrossed in true crime stories, obsessing over narratives of violence and justice. Despite her paralyzing fear of the water, Ron would often insist on taking her on boat trips to the Caribbean, seemingly taking pleasure in forcing her to face her phobia. Her diary entries from this time are a chilling record of a woman who felt trapped, belittled, and increasingly desperate. By 2011, Ron had decided he was finally finished with her. He began telling friends he wanted a younger companion and was preparing to kick Catherine out for good. He was a man who thought he was in total control, safe in his fortress in the sky. But he had spent 20 years underestimating the woman who had been watching him, reading her crime stories, and waiting for the moment when the power dynamic would shift forever. The silence of that penthouse was about to be broken in a way that would shock the world. In the early months of 2011, the air inside Ronald Vinci's world had grown heavy with a sense of impending doom. But it wasn't a threat from the outside that first alarmed him. The man who had conquered the business world and dominated the skies was being betrayed by his own body. Ron found himself hospitalized with severe, agonizing intestinal issues, a physical collapse that his doctors attributed to decades of heavy alcohol abuse, and a dangerous reliance on a cocktail of pills he took to find a fleeting sense of relaxation. But while the medical professionals looked at his liver and his lifestyle, Ronald began to look at the woman standing by his bedside. He started to notice something chilling. A persistent, bitter, metallic shift in the taste of his food. When he mentioned this to a close friend, the response was a dark joke. "Maybe Catherine is trying to poison you." At the time, Ron laughed it off, dismissing the thought as the paranoid rambling of an old man. He chose to believe his decline was simply the price of his own excess, never imagining that the bitterness on his tongue was a precursor to a much more violent end. The millionaire's ambition remained untouched. In June 2011, seeking a fresh sanctuary and perhaps a final fortress for his retirement, Ronald made a massive investment, a $3 million waterfront mansion in the heart of Fort Lauderdale. The property was a masterpiece of luxury, situated just a few steps from where his massive yacht was docked, promising a life of quiet sunsets and ocean breezes. At 70 years old, Ron was looking forward to this new chapter, hoping for frequent visits from his only son, Carrie, and his young grandson. His relationship with Carrie was complex, often marked by Ron's sharp tongue and dark humor. He would frequently joke to his associates that Carrie, who worked as a waiter, was simply biding his time, eagerly anticipating the day his father would pass away so he could finally inherit the Vinci Empire. It was a joke told with a smirk, but as the summer heat of 2011 intensified, the laughter in the Vinci household was becoming increasingly rare. The true horror of the situation came to light on the sweltering afternoon of June 28, 2011. A 911 operator received a frantic, stuttering call from Ronald's gardener, a man who had arrived at the mansion expecting a normal day of work but instead found himself standing at the edge of a nightmare. When the police arrived at the stunning waterfront property, they were led to a guest bedroom where the air was thick and still. There, they discovered the body of the millionaire. It was a sight that defied simple explanation. Ronald Vinci had been processed with a terrifying clinical precision. His body was meticulously wrapped in multiple layers of heavy plastic bags, each one sealed tight with industrial tape, and the entire bundle had been shoved into a thick sleeping bag. To the office's surprise, the bag also contained soiled bed linens, and piled on top of the body was a strange, wet, dark substance. Upon closer inspection, it was identified as several pounds of wet coffee grounds. The very same trick Catherine had learned decades earlier as a flight attendant to mask the stench of decay. Beneath the body, the mattress had been slashed to pieces, as if the killer were trying to erase every trace of what had happened on that bed. The gardener's initial report was a collection of lies fed to him by Catherine P.Y. She had told him that Ron had simply fallen down the stairs during a drunken stumble, hit his head, and died shortly after. But as the police began their interrogation, the gardener's story changed, revealing a much more sinister sequence of events. He admitted that Catherine had called him late the previous night in a state of absolute panic, begging him to come to the house. When he arrived in the morning, she didn't ask for help calling an ambulance. She asked for help burying the body. She tearfully claimed that Ron's dying wish was to be buried in the vastness of the ocean he loved so much. To carry out this gruesome plan, she had already visited a hardware store and purchased a massive blue plastic container, which was currently sitting in the garage. Her plan was simple and cold. They would load the millionaire into the container, take the yacht out to sea, and let the Atlantic swallow him forever. The medical examiner's autopsy soon stripped away any lingering hope Catherine had of claiming an accidental death. Ronald Vinci's final moments were a symphony of violence. The 70-year-old man had been stabbed 9 times in the chest and neck with a sharp blade. His head bore the jagged, blunt force trauma of multiple blows from a hammer. But the coup de grace, the wound that finally silenced the millionaire, was a single, devastating gunshot to the head. The timeline of the murder began to sharpen when investigators spoke to Ron's friends. On the evening of June 27th, a group had visited the house for dinner. During the meal, Ron had been visibly agitated, complaining that his passport and one of his handguns had mysteriously vanished. He again mentioned the bitter taste of the food Catherine had prepared. In a move that was entirely out of character for the life of the party, Ron announced he felt sick and went to bed at the remarkably early hour of 7:30. It was the last time his friends would see the fire in his eyes. When the 54-year-old Catherine was brought into the interrogation room, the domestic cat persona she had maintained for years finally shattered. In a detailed and chilling confession, she claimed that around 1 in the morning, a drunken and belligerent Ronald had woken her up with a barrage of vile insults. She claimed a chase ensued, and that Ron had stumbled and fallen down the stairs, causing a severe head injury. She told the detectives she helped him up, tucked him into the guest bedroom, and spent the next few hours cleaning the blood from the stairs. But then the story took a darker turn. She claimed she returned to the room to find Ron asleep with a loaded gun on the nightstand. In a moment she described as pure primal fear, she said she grabbed the gun and shot him to death. She told investigators that she was angrier than she had ever been, and that she felt her soul leave her body, as she then took a knife and a hammer to his remains in a post-mortem frenzy of rage. However, the physical evidence told the story of a predator, not a victim. Surveillance footage from a local hardware store captured Catherine calmly browsing and purchasing the large blue container after the murder had already taken place. When the police searched her luxury Bentley, they found a treasure trove of incriminating evidence: a handgun with her fingerprints, a blood-stained knife, rubber gloves, and even the cut-up pieces of the mattress she had tried to hide. The motive, as far as the prosecution was concerned, was rooted in the one thing that had defined their relationship from the start: money. Just a month before the murder, Ron had made his final move to rid himself of Catherine. He had authorized a $1 million payment to be made to her on the condition that she pack her bags and leave his life forever. For a woman who had spent 20 years waiting for the ultimate jackpot, $1 million was an insult, a settlement that would end her life of high-end luxury. During the trial in 2014, Catherine attempted one last desperate maneuver to swing the jury's sympathy. She made a startling accusation, claiming that Ronald Vinci was responsible for the sudden, mysterious death of her younger sister, Angela, during a Caribbean cruise in 2009. She suggested that Ron had given Angela a cocktail of pills that led to her fatal convulsions, implying that she had been living with a murderer for years. But the jury saw through the smoke and mirrors. They saw a woman who had calculated the cost of her exit and decided that murder was more profitable than a settlement. Catherine P.Y. was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. She is currently serving her time at the Lowell Correctional Institution in Florida, with a potential release date in 2034. By the time she tastes freedom again, she will be 77 years old. The tragic saga of Ronald Vinci serves as a haunting final testament to the fact that even the most successful men can be blinded by their own desires, and that sometimes the most dangerous person in the room is the one who has been quietly serving the drinks for 20 years. If this story of wealth, obsession, and betrayal gripped you, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you never miss a case. I want to hear your thoughts in the comments. Was Catherine a victim pushed to the edge, or was this the ultimate cold-blooded play for a millionaire's fortune? I'll see you in the next video.